Yeah, listen, you're talking about, boxing versus MMA. And I talk about this extensively in my book. Dana White used the WWE wrestling model, meaning you all work for the same company. And in many ways, that smooths things out, right? Like, if you look at the pay of a boxer versus an MMA fighter, UFC at least, right? Like, a boxer is going to get $100 a round, $400 for his pro debut. A UFC fighter, his debut in the UFC is going to be like 8 grand or 10 grand or whatever. So, but then you go to the top, and the boxers make a lot more money than the UFC guys, right? But how many people really make it to the top? I look at this whole argument as like fascism versus communism, right? Like one is extremely liberal, one is extremely conservative. At the end of the day, they are the same thing. They're dictatorships dictating what you're going to do. And if we look at the boxing model and the UFC model, it doesn't seem so different, right? Like, okay, in boxing, you can have a 4-fight contract, then you're out to fight for somebody else. But does that really give you value? And who gets value out of that except Canelo? And there's only one Canelo in the world. And I think what you brought up is very interesting. Like, you were talking about the local MMA shows doing that to fighters, essentially setting them up. And I smile because that's what those things become. Even though they're in case shows, just like UFC is, they have no financial power to keep those fighters. And so they're looking to give them, easy touches. I'll tell you this, there was a fighting championship called Explode that an entrepreneurial guy in San Diego met, Greg Sharp, I think his name was. And Greg got a bunch of, he called it tomato can MMA, but there were these bunch of guys that had no chance of winning, and he put them up against guys that trained and wanted to win and wanted to have a career, and it was a great business model, right? Because you're giving people a dream, hey, come win an MMA fight, and a ton of people are going to sign up for that, right? They know they're fighting someone who's not going to be ready. The tomato can MMA guys used to smoke cigarettes outside the ring. And then eventually what happened is Sherdog said, we're not counting those wins anymore because they knew how spurious they were or whatever. But listen, that wrestler guy, I forget his name, who fought Daniel Cormier, one of his wins was in Explode MMA. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what the right thing to do is. Is protecting the fighter better? Like, is what Dana and Turki Al-Sheikh trying to do right now better, right? They're trying to give fighters a chance. And I'll tell you this, listen, fighters would fight for any money anyway. So if you're going to take care of them, like you can guarantee a fighter 50 grand a year, they're going to take it, right? So I think you could see a revolution in what the sport was and what it's going to become, depending on what these guys pull off. Now, I know Turkey just kicked Dana White off the Crawford Canelo promotion, so we'll have to see how that goes. Everybody, read my book, Warrior of the Light.